Hi, welcome bij this exercise on modeling the BI section for Cloud for Analytics. My name is Iver van Zand. I work for SAP Analytics in Belux. On the screen you see the welcome screen. I logged in for Cloud for Analytics, where you can easily start connecting your data or telling a story. And today we will focus on how you can simply make a model that is the core base for your stories later on in Cloud for Analytics. And I will create that model based on a Microsoft Excel file with a number of metrics, a hierarchy, and some geodata. I take models. Over here is the interface where you see the various dimensions. You can do currency conversion and other settings. And what we are doing is exploring the models that are exist. And on my right hand side, I'm going to have a look at creating a new model by ticking the plus button, which we will do. You can import and export models, but with plus you can create a new model. So I tick plus and I get a variety of options. I can start from a blank model. I can import data from a file and base my model on that. I can connect to HANA, a remote system, Google Drive, SAP, BPC, BW, or a universe. Today we will choose the option import file from your computer as a core base for my model. And I need to select my source file first. I will show you the source file that I use. It's a simple file with a number of metrics, revenue, outlook, and budget. The difference between outlook and actual, my accuracy in percentage, a metric for order backlog. I have a date, a city and a country, latitude and longitude coordinates per city, my order identifiers, and on my right hand side I have an example of a hierarchy that has the lowest level P&L, profit and loss element. P&L element rolls up to profit and loss group, and profit and loss group rolls up to the highest level P&L, which has a split cost revenue. So I select my source file, I'll pick it up, it's the top file. I give it a name. So I can either choose which sheet of the Excel file I'll tick. I give it a name, an identifier of my personal number, and a sample name. I can give it a description. So this is the model name. I can give it a description, and here's my data brought into the model. And now I can start fine-tuning my model. So I also have historical overview, and I can tick the box whether I want the model to be allowed for planning purposes. I've done that, and I start with my first metric, revenue, and on my right hand side are all the properties, and I'm going to assign the attribute type key figure, which is the same as saying this is a measure. Yeah. I'll do the same for budget, also indicating the attribute type as key figure. The city, I leave that as is. Country 2, and for date we're going to check whether it's attributed as time, because that allows me to create a hierarchy for time series. Over here is another metric, so I tick that as key figure, and the same goes for the other elements, key figures. And on my right hand side, I just double check all the other columns that are important. So over here is a percentage, also a key figure, longitude and latitude. And over here are my orders that are indicated as identifier, because they are unique order identifiers. Backlog is also a key figure. And my P&L elements, which we will come back to later on. I can go to my order number, and as an example, I open up the properties set. I can sort, filter this column, duplicate it, hide it, delete it. I can combine it with another column or even split it, convert cases, and all kinds of other elements. But I can also create a location dimension based on the longitude and latitude elements that I have available. Over here, I give a name to my dimension. Please be aware that any dimension that you save in a model can be used in other models. So it's important to choose the correct name. I'll choose latitude and longitude to be related to my geo dimension, and I base it on the city. I tick create, and I have now a geo-oriented dimension. You can see that it verifies whether it recognizes all the elements and the correct structure, and I can now create my model based on the file. So here it goes, it's populating the model right now, and I get a message that the data is successfully imported. This is the overview of my model. Over here you see the time category. So the big difference with traditional BI is that you upfront create your model and your hierarchies. Over here you see the city with the longitude and latitude coordinates that we just defined, my order lines, and now as a last step I'm going to define the hierarchy based on the P&L elements. The lowest level is P&L elements, and over here you see all the individual values it can have. I go in one of the cells and I tick plus button to create a hierarchy. I type in parent as a higher level, which I can fill in later on. I just copy the elements and paste them to the description section. So they are indicated as description label. And now I can go back to my Excel file and have a look at all the parent levels for each individual attribute. So the lowest level is the P&L element, which you see over here, which rolls up to a variety of 5 or 6 levels within cost and similar within revenue. So I'll pick them up and I fill them in, each one of them. So I'll quickly do that for you. And over here I've finalized the first level. So on column A you see the base level. In the parent you see the level where they roll up. Then I do the next step. I go to the P&L group level. I'll define them, copy them, and explain to what level. So these levels roll up to the cost element. I can fill in the descriptions also so that the labels are correct. Just copy them. And the same goes for the revenue element, which has only one line, which I can fill in over here. And that rolls up to the final level of revenue. On your right hand side you see the structure visualized, the hierarchical structure visualized, so you can always verify your correct hierarchy. And the highest level is cost and revenue. Yeah, so in one overview you define the complete hierarchy upfront, and that is a big difference with the traditional BI modeling that most of us are used to. Once you've done this once or twice, it's very easy to understand and to adapt the technique. I save it, and now my model is finished. I get a green message that my model is adapted successfully, meaning that I can now go to the story section and start creating my first story by tapping the plus button. I give it a name, again identifier with a sample name, and a description if I'm interested, and I tick create. I can now start creating my first story by adding a blank canvas and saying I want to start with a chart, for example, or I could also choose an image. Or I have to choose which model, so I go back to the model that we just created together, the test FC. I'll pick it up, say OK. And here I can define my first chart. Well, I'm going to show you how the hierarchy works. So I choose a simple bar chart and choose 3 metrics. I'm currently in the chart builder, and as a category or dimension I choose the P&L element that we created a hierarchy for. And over here you see the result. I have cost and revenue as the highest level. I can tick the box and choose the drill down button, and you see that my hierarchy works perfectly. One of the very nice elements in Cloud for Analytics is the control click section that gives you variances in different elements, which is a connection to the HICART and IBCS standards. These are perfectly respected, and Cloud for Analytics is one of the very few tools on the market that is able to do so. So very, very powerful feature, variances comparing two different metrics within the same graph. Creating a Geo map to show you how our geo-based dimension works. So I choose Add Geo Map, and I'm creating a layer and defining the dimension that I want to use. So it's the one that we just created together. I choose a metric for the bubbles, and I can choose various color options. I just show you a few of the examples. It's really impressive what can be done. I adjust the opacity, and I can create a range of values where the colors need to change. I can change it if I want to a heat map just with one single click. And over here you see a heat map coming up based on the metrics that we click the correct location dimension, and over here you see a heat map based on the revenue element in our data set. I can add a second layer, for example, a point of interest layer. Very interesting, there are a few already populated. One is with hurricanes, for example, that appear in the world, and you can see the hurricanes being displayed together with my heat map on revenue. Well, there is no relation, but imagine that there is one. I can easily visualize it. I can also make the charts dependent towards each other, so I can tick the Geo Map and choose formatting and tick the Geo Map properties button. So it applies to the whole story, and that allows me to very simply select the using the polygon button and draw an area on my map that I'm interested in. Freehand drawing, and you will see that the chart on my left hand side's adjusted. Well, this is in a few minutes creating a model, BI model in Cloud for Analytics from scratch based on a hierarchy and a geo dimension. In the next session, we will further have a look at the visualization capabilities of this product. Many thanks.